The Voice of Prophecy. Bible Course. The Paths of Faith Lesson 15. 1,000 Years of Peace. In the previous lesson we learned that the judgment of the wicked must continue in heaven for 1,000 years, and that these 1,000 years begin with the return of Christ. What can we know about these 1,000 years? What events must take place before, during and after this long period? It is to these questions that we now propose to answer, appealing only to the teaching of the Holy Scriptures. Two terms in one. In the sacred volume, we find 9 times the association of the two words 1,000 and years. In a Psalm 94, quoted by St. Peter, 2nd Epistle 3:8, the 1,000 years indicates an unlimited duration. In Ecclesiastes 6:6, the 1,000 years apply to a hypothetical existence that would be 2,000 years old. But in the Apocalypse, where they are mentioned 6 times, chapter 20, the 1,000 years represent a real millennial period, which comes between two resurrections. The two terms of the expression 1,000 years have ended by forming only one, the millennium term, which is not found in the Holy Scriptures, but which we generally use when we speak of the 1,000 years of the Apocalypse. Question: how many times does the expression 1,000 years appear in the Holy Scriptures with the meaning of an actual millennial period? The intermediate kingdom of the Son. The millennium constitutes a preparatory phase for the eternal kingdom of the Father. The millennium is the intermediate kingdom of the Son. The purpose of this kingdom is to complete the work of redemption, by bringing the universe into the order from which it was left by the revolt of Lucifer and man. Once the order is restored, total authority belongs to the Father, undisputed master of the pacified universe. But Christ does not reign on earth, he reigns in heaven with the redeemed. Let us remember his promise to the disciples, John 14 verse 3: when I am gone, and I have prepared a place for you, I will return, and I will take you with me, so that where I am, you be there too. St. Paul also says that the Church, at the time of Christ's return, is taken up to heaven. 1 Thessalonians 4:16, 17. Finally, St. John declares, Revelation 20:4-6, that the righteous will be priests of God and of Christ, and that they will reign with him, the Son, for millennia. Now, Christ, for the 1,000 years is also judge. Assisting elected officials, he judges the wicked and the fallen angels. See previous lesson, reread John 5:22-27, Romans 2:16. St. John contemplated the scene of this judgment, and I saw thrones, and to those who sat there was given the power to judge. Revelation 20:4. Question: A. What constitutes the millennium? Question: B. Where and with whom did Jesus reign for the 1,000 years? Question: C. What function does he add to that of king? Earth returns to chaos. When is the earth for 1,000 years? The earth returns to chaos. It is depopulated and desolate, shapeless and empty, as before the organization of the material. A true hustle and bustle. This last expression is an adaptation of the Hebrew words hustle bustle, which means shapeless and empty, and which we find, apart from Genesis 1:2, under the pen of the prophet Jeremiah 4:23-26, when he describes the condition of Palestine after the swearing that is to strike it, a local judgment serving as a model for universal judgment which, for 1,000 years, must bring our land back to the state before creation. I look at the earth, said the prophet, and behold, the earth is shapeless and empty, the heavens, and their lights have disappeared. I look at the mountains, and behold, they are shaken, and all the hills are tottering. I look, and behold, there is no man, and all the birds of the air fled. I look, and behold, Carmel is a desert, and all his cities are destroyed before the Lord, before fiery anger. And the prophet Isaiah in his turn declares, 13:9, Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, a day of wrath and fierce fury, which will reduce the earth to loneliness, and exterminate its sinners. The Holy Scriptures do not sanction, do not give permission or approval to the idea of an earthly golden age for the 1,000 years. They establish, on the contrary, that the return of Christ coincides with a catastrophe for the earth and that the latter the earth will not experience recovery until the end of the 1,000 years. Question: what becomes of the earth during the millennium? Satan is bound. The state of desolation of the earth also explains the apocalyptic scene where we see an angel, who is Satan, bind to a desolate earth for 1,000 years. Then I saw an angel come down from heaven, who had the key to the abyss, and a big chain in his hand. He grabbed the dragon, the ancient serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss, closed and sealed the entrance above him, so that he would no longer deceive the nations, until the 1,000 years were over. After that, he has to be untied for a little while. Revelation 20:1-3. Here we are in the presence of symbol. The preventive destruction of the wicked at the time of Christ's return and the rapture of the church in heaven deprive the earth of its inhabitants. The very fact that Satan can no longer work to seduce souls, that he is forced into inactivity and isolation, he is bound by a chain of circumstances and placed in the impossibility of harming anyone. During his forced retirement, he walks on the deserted earth, contemplating everywhere the consequences of his rebellion in the sky and of his work on the earth. All around him, he saw nothing but ruin and desolation. Thus, during the millennium takes place in heaven the intermediate reign of Christ and the judgment of the wicked by the redeemed, while desolation covers the earth. Where I look at the earth, said the prophet, and behold, the earth is shapeless and empty, the heavens, and their lights have disappeared. I look at the mountains, and behold, they are shaken, and all the hills are tottering. I look, and behold, there is no man, and all the birds of the air fled. I look, and behold, Carmel is a desert, and all his cities are destroyed before the Lord, before fiery anger. This is what the teaching of the Holy Scriptures allows us to affirm. Question: what is the significance of the fact that an angel comes to bind Satan for 1,000 years? Before the millennium. The millennium is placed between the two resurrections, but these two resurrections are also framed by an important event that should be noted. Although several of them take place simultaneously, we cannot do better than to list them one after the other. The central fact which precedes the 1,000 years is the return in glory of Jesus. It comes after the accomplishment of the precursory signs of return, Luke 21, 28-33, after the great sorting, or the separation of the good ones from the wicked, Matthew 25, 31-33, and immediately after the end of the pouring out of the 7 bowls, or last plagues, described in the Apocalypse, chapter 16. Note: a brief description of the 7 bowls or plagues are given below. Click link below for detailed explanation. https://www.itiswritten.com/search-for-certainty-less-7-last-plagues. First painful and loathsome sore strikes the worshippers of the beast, those not observing God's Sabbath. Second sea turns blood. Third rivers and springs waters turn blood. Fourth sun scorches sinners. Fifth darkness on the seat of the beast, Rome. C 666, the number of the beast. Sixth Satan's dragon supporters revolt against the beast, Rome. Seventh voice, noise, hail, an earthquake like it has ever occurred since man has been on earth. The return of Jesus is accompanied by 4 events. 1. The resurrection of all the just dead since the murder of Abel until the end. It is the first resurrection. Christ said, "My Father's will is that whoever sees the Son and believes in him has eternal life, and will raise him up at the last day." 2. The transformation of the righteous who are still alive, who join the risen. 1 Corinthians 15, 50-53, 1 Thessalonians 4, 16, 17. 3. The assembly of the church, and its removal in the sky. Matthew 24, 31, 1 Thessalonians 4, 17. 4. The terror of the wicked, and their destruction by the splendor of the coming of the Lord. It is a preventive death, the wicked, all the wicked, having to resuscitate at the end of the 1,000 years to receive the application of the penalty imposed on them and pending during the 1,000 years. Revelation 6, 15-17, 2 Thessalonians 1, 7-10. Question: A. What is the main event expected to occur before the millennium? Question: B. What are the major events that accompany it? After the millennium. What will happen after the millennium? The term of 1,000 years is marked by this event, the last of which inaugurates the eternal kingdom of the Father. Here is the list. Christ, his angels, and the multitude of redeemed descend from heaven to earth with the New Jerusalem. Zechariah 14, 3-4, Revelation 21, 2. To all the wicked, all those who died through all the centuries, that those who were destroyed by the brightness of the return of Christ at the beginning of the 1,000 years, are resurrected to receive their retribution, a justly deserved penalty. John 5:29, last part, Revelation 20:5, first part. 3. Satan is untied, that is to say, the resurrection of the wicked removes him from his isolation and makes him find new victims over whom to exercise his power. He pushes them to war against the New Jerusalem and its inhabitants. Revelation 20:7-8. 4. Led by Satan, the wicked invade the New Jerusalem and give it a fierce assault, but God intervenes, convinces them of their guilt and forces them to worship His glorious Son. Revelation 20:9-11-12. 5. The wicked are destroyed, Satan and his followers suffer an exemplary punishment, evil no longer exists and death is annihilated forever. Revelation 20:9-10, 14.15, 21:8, 1 Corinthians 15:26. 6. The earth, purified by fire, is restored to its Edenic beauty. 2 Peter 3:10, the whole chapter 21 of the Apocalypse. 7. The Son hands over the reign to his Father. It is the hour of the restoration of all things, Acts 3:21. Thus, God is all in all, 1 Corinthians 15:28. Then the word spoken by Habakkuk the prophet, 2:14, will be fulfilled. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, like the bottom of the sea by the waters that cover it. Question: A. When does the second resurrection take place and what is the goal? Question: B. What ultimately happens to all the bad guys? Question: C. His work finished, what is Christ doing?